Hi everybody, Dr. Lawrence here. This is my video about outlining and drafting your sample chapter. And, this is like informal strategies for eating an elephant. We could probably call this, right? You know the joke. It's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I mean, there's some truth in that, if nothing else, some common sense wisdom. We have to structurally break down a chapter. The big lift of this class, the big amount of work, I think, is the drafting of the sample chapter. And so we have to start thinking about it fairly early in the process so that you have enough time to get it drafted. So we started with a concept, narrowing and specifying the concept of your book. It's possible also that a hook is starting to emerge for you. A hook is the elevator pitch of the book. How do you really sell it? Like, you know, no one else has ever written a book about the history of Wisconsin sustainable farming. You are the person to do it because you grew up on a sustainable farm in rural Wisconsin and you know all about it, and you're going to look at the history of it and how it came to be and the current predicaments that farmers in Wisconsin face. Boom, that's a hook. It's interesting, it's localized, it's relevant to and then you're gonna offer some critique of like industrial agriculture in the age of technology, and boom, it's cool, right? That's a concept. It's got a little hooky thing, um, but then what, right? And then like, what do you do with that? So that's the purpose of this video. You have some kind of concept, and you need to write 5,000 6,000 words in that ballpark for your sample chapter. My big advice here is outlining and think about the sections. How do you break your topic down? Okay, so you have some kind of hook, you have some kind of concept, some idea for a book. You need a sample chapter. You need an outline for that chapter. Now, traditionally in a book proposal, you would do an outline for the whole book, but I think that's overly ambitious for the purpose of this class. So I'm going to be happy just with an outline for your single sample chapter. I'll be really clear about that. If you're just brimming and overflowing with ideas and you want to outline the whole book, like, have at it. I think that's awesome. That's really cool. But for the purpose, I don't want to overwhelm folks. So just for the purpose of this class, the outline of a single chapter. So, how do we approach this? Look at chapters, look at samples of books. Some writers like really short sections because it helps them move through their writing process more easily. A lot of writers, they might have 4 or 5 sections per chapter. That breaks it into about 1,000 words per section. I'm thinking really technically here, but there's also the sense of like a section should be just as long as it needs to be, right? I mean, your other professors have probably said something like that. Like, if you ask, well, how long should my story be? How long should my short story be? They'll probably say it should be exactly as long as it needs to be, right? Like it should be precisely the right amount of length to say exactly what it needs to say. That being said, there are conventions, right? A 20,000 word chapter would be way too long. It would bore people, right? So there are like material, practical reasons why these things are the length that they are. So break your subject into sections in an outline, and then you can start to see the shape of the chapter. So let's take that example. You're a violinist. You've been playing violin your whole life. You are interested in Romanian violins that are made in Romania. You're going to write a book about the history of Romanian violin luthiers. Where do you start? Break it apart. Maybe there is a specific important historical luthier, a violin maker from Romania. What's their story? Where were they born? Where did they learn their craft? Did they have a master who they studied under? What's their story? What's their history? Where did the wood come from? Who cut it down? Who owned the logging company? Get all those pieces. And that's not a chapter structure yet, by the way. That's just research. That's just a bunch of ideas. You have to take all those ideas and important thoughts and then structure them in a logical way that kind of tells a story or means something to someone with a thread, a connective tissue that runs all through it. Let's try to do some more examples. I keep coming back to violins for some reason, but let's find some more examples, maybe outside of history. Let's say you're writing a self-help book. That's an example I have in here. It's about we'll come up with something new here. Self-help book for college students. How do you overcome procrastination? That's a cool concept for a book. Defeating procrastination, a college student's guidebook, something like that. You might start by saying, what is procrastination? What is the psychology of procrastination? What is the neuroscience, the brain's relationship to procrastination? Who coined the term? What's the first time the term procrastination enters the literature? The ancient Greeks didn't use the term procrastination. But did they have a corollary? Did they have some kind of correlating problem? Maybe. Maybe it's a human universal problem. Maybe early Stone Age humans were napping instead of hunting. I don't know. How far back could you trace the idea? Anyway, all that then shapes into, some kind of logical outline. Think about your reader. So yeah, like if we were writing chapter 1 of the College Student's Guide to Fighting Procrastination, we would probably start out with like, what is procrastination? What is the science of it? What are some basic strategies for working against it? And then maybe conclusion is your like personal experience with it, some kind of little anecdote or a vignette or a little story about how you overcame procrastination recently, and that inspired your writing of the book. That's 4 sections. Sorry, my fingers are cut off the screen there. That's 4 sections we just identified, relevant to the topic, and it would kind of create a through line or a thread that would, not too hard, right? I mean, from the conceptual standpoint, like that starts to sound like a nonfiction book chapter. Sorry, I don't mean to reduce it. I know that's actually a lot of thinking and work that goes into it. But I just mean to say, like, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of there's no really right or wrong way to outline a chapter other than it should be logical. It should kind of tell some kind of story, or it should have some kind of compelling logic to it that connects it all together in that. Some people draw the line this way, like the line through the book, but being a writer that I'm using Microsoft Word and scrolling through the pages, I kind of think of it as a line that, like, there's a connecting line that moves all through the chapter, all through the book, that just kind of ties it all together in a way that's satisfying for a reader. So think about what that connecting theme is. There some kind of theme or purpose that connects all those different sections together? But basically, outlining is about breaking down all your information in a logical, useful way. And then I'll do another video about drafting to go along with this. Take care, everybody.